I left my boyfriend for the man I secretly loved, who promised to be with me, but he used me and then left. Now, my ex demanded I repay what I owed and married someone else. Men only know how to use women's money. I'm going to tell this unvarnished, as if I were writing it at 3 in the morning with dry eyes and a churning stomach. Because that's how it feels. My name is Valeria and I left Daniel, my boyfriend of 4 years, the man I suspected, with proof, was about to propose to me. I did it because my crush, Matteo, told me yes right when I most needed that yes to feed my ego. He said yes, and then he used me. I let myself be used, and when I wanted to go back to where there was warmth, there was no longer a door. Daniel had someone else and I was left with the echo. To understand the picture, Daniel and I were stable. Routine had taken us by the hand. We shared market Sundays, rewatched series, and the pancake recipe that he made better than I did. We had private jokes, a shared folder with silly photos, and a half-formed plan to save for the down payment on an apartment. It wasn't a perfect relationship, but it was that lukewarm tranquility of opening the fridge and knowing there's milk. Then there was Matteo, a colleague from the office, the kind who walks into a room and people turn up the volume just because of how he laughs. Taller than Daniel, louder than Daniel, more, anything is possible, than Daniel. He wasn't a better person, he was more of a show. I confused that with more life. Ball, can you help me with the brief for the AAA campaign? He said the first time we stayed late at the office. I said yes, of course, absolutely. We ordered food, made jokes, complained about Excel. When I left at past 10, a message from him appeared on my phone. Matteo, you're a rock star. If it weren't for you, this wouldn't have gotten done. I owe you 1 inch. Me, make it a coffee and we're even. Matteo, a coffee or a dinner. That night I gained a tingle that I hadn't gotten with Daniel in a while. And not because Daniel didn't take care of me, he did, but because for some time I had been craving applause. And Matteo applauded even to say hello. That same month, Daniel started acting weirder. Not weird in a bad way, weirdly excited. He invited me to dinner at a restaurant that was out of our budget. He offered to wash the dishes without me saying anything and stopped arguing about little things, as if he was afraid of spoiling a surprise. One afternoon, I saw him looking at something small on his computer screen, and as soon as I walked in, he minimized the window. I didn't say anything, but I noticed the new sweater, the haircut, the way he asked, "Do you like silver or rose gold more?" I noticed everything. I also noticed that my chest no longer leaped when he smiled. I kept texting with Matteo. Nothing explicit. Nonsense that feels important when you're longing to be seen. Me, how did the meeting with the sales team go? Matteo, badly, but your smile would have lifted the mood. Toxic for the brain. I drank it in as if it were purified water. The night everything changed, Daniel arrived with a bag from the French bakery in the neighborhood. He brought eclairs. I love them. He put the box on the table, gave me a kiss on the forehead and said, "This weekend we could go to the viewpoint. We haven't been in a while. If you want, I'll invite your parents to lunch on Sunday." I laughed out of courtesy. He smiled as if he were practicing for a big moment. And that's when my phone vibrated. It was Matteo. Matteo, are you awake? I have something to confess. I can't handle this. Me, handle what, Matteo? Matteo, that I like you. I really like you. I have gone back to that screen, to that sentence, 1,000 times. I could have read it and laughed. I could have ignored it. I could have told Daniel to turn off the oven, that we should talk. What I did was go to the bathroom, close the door, and sit on the toilet lid with my elbows on my knees. I wrote back, "Me too." Nothing physical happened that night. There was no bodily betrayal, but something broke and it would never be the same. I lay down next to Daniel with the newborn secret curled up between my chest and the pillow. He held my hand, searching for my fingers. I responded out of inertia. The next day, Matteo appeared beside me at the office with a coffee and a brazen smile. He leaned in close enough for his cologne to make me forget where I left my mouse. "I can't handle this," he whispered. "I don't want us to hide from ourselves." Us? I believed him. Those words came after days of messages and a couple of long lunches in which Matteo said that with me everything was lighter, that my thing was intelligence and humor, that I gave him peace. I wasn't used to someone saying you to me. Daniel always said we. That you felt like a novel caress. I didn't see the difference. I didn't want to see it. The following week, Daniel found a pretext. Let's go to the viewpoint on Saturday. I'll bring the camera. We'll take pictures. I promise it will be special. I understood the subtext and felt panic. The panic of imagining a promise that would tie me to something I no longer knew if I wanted. I called my friend Clara. I don't want to ruin his life, I told her in a low voice. You'll ruin it if you marry him without wanting to, she replied. If you're not sure, you're not sure. But what if I'm just confused? I asked, seeking absolution. Confusion with another person isn't confusion, it's a decision, she said. Don't mess with Daniel's head, don't mess with your own. It was the first time I heard the word decision so starkly. I stood up, walked 10 steps in the living room, and returned to the same spot as if I were trapped in a cube. I wrote to Mateo, I'm going to break up with Daniel. He replied with a heart. I stared at that tiny figure for a full minute. A while later he sent, come to my place after you talk to him. I don't want you to be alone. We'll take it one step at a time, but I'm with you. That I'm with you held me up like a plank in the water. I jumped. I told Daniel on Thursday night. I sat him on the sofa, turned off the television, took a breath as if I were about to dive underwater. I don't want us to go to the viewpoint, I began. Are you tired? He asked, and a trace of fear appeared on his face. No, it's that I don't want us to go to the viewpoint. I don't want this, I made a vague gesture with my hand, to continue like this with us, I mean. I feel confused. I like someone else. The words I like someone else echoed in the room like a shattering glass. Daniel brought his hand to his mouth. He didn't cry, he didn't shout. First he was very quiet. Then he said, since when? I don't know. I don't want to lie to you. I've been feeling strange for months. He's from the office. Nothing physical happened, but I can't pretend there's nothing there. He leaned back. He nodded once, slowly. I thought you were strange because of work, he said. Or because of me. I started making plans to, I don't know, to remind you that this is worth it. I was saving. His voice broke right on saving. I wanted to ask you properly. I was afraid you'd say no and look. I looked at anything but his face. A crack in the wall paint, the frayed edge of a cushion. You don't owe me any explanations, he continued. But I'm going to ask you for just one thing, Valeria. Don't drag me into your doubt. If you've already decided, make it final. Don't write to me in a week to say, maybe. I can't handle that. I'm not a layover. I'm not going to play with you, I managed to say. I'm sorry. Me too, he said. He took a deep breath. Get your things. I'll stay in the house until the end of the month, and then we'll see how we split everything. I'll transfer your share of the deposit. If you need anything, let me know. I'd rather this not turn into a war. Daniel was always decent. That day he was even more so than ever. He didn't cling to the ring or the plan. He didn't show me the box I later learned he had hidden in the inner pocket of a jacket. He didn't beg me. He let me go, and I took it as a sign that I was being mature. I left the house with a suitcase and a vibrating phone. It was Mateo. Mateo, are you okay? Me, yes. Mateo, come over. I went. I shouldn't have gone, but I did. At his house, there was a lit candle and soft music. He hugged me as if he had been waiting for me his whole life. I'm not going to dramatize it. It was nice. It was like taking off your shoes after a very long day. He told me, I'm not promising you anything immediate. I'm not one to jump to labels, but I want to be with you. I want to see what happens. I want you not to be afraid. I nodded like someone being led blindfolded. We had Chinese food. He showed me travel photos. We talked about our families. At midnight, while I was clearing the plates, he said, I have to get up early tomorrow, but stay if you want. Sleep. I'll see you at breakfast. I slept there for the first time. I woke up to a message from Daniel. You got home okay? I read it without replying. Mateo left me a coffee on the table and a kiss on the forehead. See you at the office. The next day, my friend Clara wrote to me, how did he take it? I replied with a sentence that now burns me to read. Well, it was difficult, but I think I did the right thing. I'm with Mateo. Clara, with Mateo? How? Me, with Mateo. Clara took a while to reply. Then, take care of yourself, please. I didn't take care of myself. The first few weeks with Mateo were a story that could fit on Instagram. Photos of his dog, late brunches, laughter at the office that extended past 6. He introduced me as Ball, his partner in creative wars. Not girlfriend. I swallowed the euphemism as if it were candy. He's taking it one step at a time. Give him time, I told myself. There were neon signs. I didn't want to read them. This weekend, I have to go visit my parents, he blurted out one Friday. We'll be on the road all afternoon, but I'll write to you on Sunday, and we'll meet at your place. Do you want me to go with you? I asked with a mix of eagerness and fear, knowing that was a couple thing. No, he smiled. It's too soon to bring in the family. You know how they are. I'd rather go alone and come back fresh to see you. He gave me a short kiss. On Sunday, he wrote to me at 9 at night. I'm dead tired. I'll pick you up tomorrow. The next day, nothing. On Tuesday, sorry, everything took longer. Today, for sure. That week we saw each other on Thursday, and I pretended the void didn't hurt. I started to justify it. He's independent. He has 1,000 things to do. The important thing is that when we see each other, we see each other. I also started to notice something else. I paid or we paid. But we paid meant I put down the card and he'd say, I'll transfer you tomorrow. He never transferred. The first time it was 20, the second 50, the third 120 because he ordered a wine to celebrate that we're brave. I celebrated my bank account. I'll send it later, love, he said one night, brushing for the first time against the word I wanted to hear. I clung to that, love. That time he did transfer 40, not 120-40. I rounded it down to silence because I didn't want to seem materialistic. At work, Mateo was charming with everyone. There were hallway laughs I hadn't heard before, messages that weren't just with me. One afternoon, passing by his desk, I saw an open WhatsApp conversation on his screen. I managed to read. See you at the same bar. 9 p.m. A blue heart. The contact was named Dom watching the stars. I didn't want to ask. I was one step at a time. I was no labels. I repeated those words to myself like a mantra to keep from exploding. Meanwhile, Daniel was keeping his promise of decency. He didn't write to me. He transferred his part of the rent deposit without delay. I asked for a box with my books. He left it at the front desk. Inside was a note. May you never lack for reading material. It was a list of recommendations we had made together and a photo of us in a park. The first time I saw it, I put it face down. The second time, I put it in a drawer. I didn't cry, or so I thought. And the viewpoint, Clara asked me one afternoon, mentioning it like someone touching glass they already know is broken. There was no viewpoint, I said. There was nothing. I told him the truth. He let me go. Are you okay with Mateo now? Yes, I lied. We're flowing. Flowing is the elegant disguise for there are no definitions. I tried it on every day. One night, Mateo asked for my car. I left mine at the shop. Can you do me a favor? You're an angel. I'm not a shop nor am I an angel, but I gave him the keys. He returned at 2 a.m. with a much emptier tank and a smile that smelled of a bar. He said, thanks, really appreciate it. He gave me the keys, kissed my forehead and left without staying. I'll bring you breakfast tomorrow, he promised. He brought nothing. I repeat, there were neon signs. I used them to light his way. At the end of the month, now in my new one-room apartment, I did the math. I could make it, yes, but it would be tight. I looked for the shared folder I had with Daniel and deleted it. It was like throwing away something that was still useful, but hurt to look at. I asked at the office if anyone wanted to take on the accounts of a difficult client. I took that client so my mind wouldn't be idle. I deceived myself with work. Mateo left "You're the best" stickers on my monitor. I collected them. I also collected the times he canceled. Impossible today. Everything got complicated. I'll make it up to you next time. I began to suspect that "make it up to you" didn't exist in his dictionary. One Friday, he suggested, come to my place. We'll watch a movie. I bought ice cream, rented a movie, and brought a sweater. When I arrived, there were 2 glasses on the table and lipstick on a napkin. It wasn't mine. I stood there with the ice cream melting in the bag. Ball, you're early, he said, coming out of the bathroom with wet hair. A friend stopped by to drop off some documents. She just left. I swallowed the entire comment. It formed a cold lump right under my tongue. I nodded, put the ice cream in the freezer, and sat on the sofa. Everything okay? He asked with that smile of his that opens many doors. Yes, I said. The movie played in silence. My head didn't. That night, as I fell asleep, I thought of Daniel. Not of his face, but of his way of asking. Do you want me to make you tea? I thought of that question and hated myself a little. I hated myself for leaving him. I hated myself for doubting. I hated myself for pretending I didn't see what I was seeing. And at the same time, I clung to a phrase I repeated to myself to keep from falling apart. This is the price of choosing myself. On Sunday, Mateo asked me to go with him to buy some things at the mall. But can you pay? I'll transfer you tonight. I paid. That night he wrote. The power went out. Tomorrow without fail. There was no tomorrow. The following week, Clara called me. I'm not going to scold you, she said. I just want to know if you're okay. I'm fine, I said. Mateo is different. He's not Daniel. He's free. Free for what? She asked. Free to not promise anything, I answered as if it were something valuable. She sighed. Just remember not to deceive yourself so much that you lose yourself. I didn't succeed. That Thursday was the first time I really felt it. The void. I had gotten ready with care because he had promised a night just for us. He sent me the location of a new bar. I arrived on time. 30 minutes later, nothing. An hour, nothing. At an hour and 20 minutes, he sent me a message. I'm not going to be able to make it. Sorry. I'll call you tomorrow. You're the best. I put my phone in my purse. I walked aimlessly for 3 blocks. I sat on a bench. I cried. Not a loud cry, one that stays trapped in your throat and hurts more because it doesn't come out completely. I got home at 11. There was an envelope at the door. Daniel was returning a blouse that had apparently been left among his things. Inside the envelope was a note. I hope you're doing well. Seriously. That note was a gentle slap in the face. I didn't know what to do with kindness at that point. I opened Daniel's chat. I saw the last messages. You got home okay? / Yes. Silence. I started to write. Hello. I deleted it. I wrote. Can we talk? I deleted it. I wrote. I'm sorry. I deleted it. I turned off the phone. I slept badly. I dreamed of a viewpoint we never went up to and a box I never saw, but which I now imagined as perfect, lined with velvet inside a jacket I left hanging the afternoon I left. The next morning at the office, Mateo came in late. A kiss on the cheek. An easy joke. When we were alone by the coffee machine, I said, I waited for you for a long time yesterday. He shrugged. The meeting with a client was canceled and a friend called me with a problem. I had to go. Sorry, I'll make it up to you today if you want. Making it up isn't erasing, I said without raising my voice. Ball, let's not start with the drama, he replied, already with that placid tone one uses to calm a child. We're flowing, remember? Besides, we're not. He made a gesture with his hand. That. We didn't promise each other anything. We're testing things out. Don't get intense. I clenched my jaw. I said, I'm not intense. I was, not by nature, but because of the situation. I had put my life on a betting table with no rules, and now they were asking me to smile as they took my chips. The afternoon passed in silence. At the next desk, Mateo was laughing with someone in a chat. I stared at a logo and saw nothing. I thought of Daniel again. I thought about how I had chosen to leave a warm place to enter a bright one, and that brightness fades quickly when you look at it up close. That night at 8, I did something I swore I wouldn't do. I called Daniel. He didn't answer. I let it ring until the automated voice got tired. I called again. He didn't answer. I wrote to myself, don't drag me into your doubt. That phrase was his. I had ignored it. Now it was a sign on the door. At 10, a photo appeared on a mutual friend's status, Daniel on a terrace, with a different smile. Next to him, a woman I didn't know. Nothing too close, nothing that could be read as a couple, but they looked like two people who find it easy to talk. I stared at it. I felt something cold on my back, as if a shadow were falling over me. I didn't write to him. I stared at the ceiling. I heard neighbors. A dog. My refrigerator making a strange noise. I thought about how on Sundays we used to buy fruit. Now I bought the bare minimum: coffee, bread, some ready-made soup. I thought the small apartment had an echo and that my voice sounded unfamiliar when I said to myself, "You chose." The next day, Saturday, Mateo woke me up with a "You up?" I replied, "Yes." It took him 15 minutes to say, "Come over. I'm making pasta." I went. He made pasta. We ate. We talked about traffic. At one point his phone rang. Dom watching the stars. He put it face down. He didn't answer. I shrank in my chair. "Who is Domi?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "A friend," he said quickly. "Don't worry about those things, Ball. Don't sabotage something nice with pointless jealousy." Something nice. I repeated it like someone forcing themselves to believe. I washed the dishes. He hugged me from behind as if that would fix what the lack of labels made me feel. He didn't stay that night. He had an early day the next day. He gave me a kiss and left. I was left with the smell of sauce and a sticky table. On Sunday, I called my mom for the first time in weeks. We talked about anything and everything. At the end, she asked about Daniel. I dodged it. I said we were on a break. My mom, who is not stupid, replied, "Sometimes a break is an ending." She wished me a good day. I hung up with a knot in my stomach that wasn't hunger. In the afternoon, I opened the drawer where the photo from the park was. I looked at it for a long time, then put it away again. I sat on the floor because the chair was far from the window and I needed light. I thought about writing to Daniel, "I'm sorry." I thought about writing to Mateo, "Let's define this." I did neither. I stayed motionless until nightfall. This part isn't supposed to be the end. It's just the beginning of the collapse, but you can already feel the loose bricks. I don't know exactly what day Mateo started to deflate, but I can point to a date that feels like a scene cut. A rainy Thursday, the one of the "I'll make it up to you." I got ready. I arrived at the bar. I waited an hour and 20 minutes and the message was a brief apology that doesn't make anything better. The next day, he walked into the office with the same smile that opens doors. It no longer opened them for me. "Let's not start with drama," he told me at the coffee machine with foam on his lip and tranquility in his voice. "We're flowing, Paul. Besides, we're not that." That? A barrier word, a short wall you trip over again and again. That afternoon, I saw him laughing from his desk, looking at his phone. The name Domi watching the stars appeared in my peripheral vision when he left it face up for 2 seconds. The blue heart. The notification, 9 p.m. work for you. He swallowed the message in his pocket and continued as if I hadn't seen anything. Naivety has hands to cover its eyes. I was still using them. On Saturday, he made pasta for 2. There was a foreign lipstick on the napkin. He denied it with a naturalness that only those who deny things often have. He said, "A friend." Documents. I nodded with the ice cream melting halfway out of the freezer door. He didn't stay that night. He had an early start. I was left smelling of sauce and doubts. On Sunday, the signs returned. This time they were in the form of a photo. My friend Diana posted a story. An illuminated terrace, gin glasses, laughter. In a background second, Mateo leans his head toward a dark-haired girl. She speaks in his ear. The tag said Dominga da Australis. I'm not a cop, but I can do math. I wrote to him. Let's meet today. Mateo, I'm exhausted. Tomorrow without fail. Tomorrow. A stretchy word that always stretches a little more. On Monday, I went to his desk with a pretext. "Do you have the master file for the campaign?" He had it. He gave it to me. When I turned around, he said, "Don't get intense about the past few days. I want you to be calm." I like you like that. I'm not a piece of furniture that moves your mood. I replied without raising my voice. He smiled like someone who has practiced in disarming objections. "You shouldn't label what gets ruined by labels," he said as if reciting a decorative wall quote. I went back to my chair with the file, a churning stomach and something like shame stuck to my mouth. What follows is a sequence of small humiliations. Not scandals, not shouts, simple things, payments he never transferred. Promise nights that turned into, sorry, something came up. Messages seen an hour later and replies 2 days after, but party stories uploaded within 10 minutes. The kind of things that only really hurt when you've already given too much. I also stopped performing well. I missed details. Pieces were returned to me with obvious corrections. My eyebrows twitched in meetings. Clara took me to lunch and spoke to me bluntly. You're waiting for crumbs and calling it a feast. Stop making excuses. Aren't you doing yourself a favor? I don't want to lose anything else, I said, although I knew that anything else was a euphemism for everything. You've already lost it. Now choose if you want to leave on your own 2 feet or wait to be pushed. I didn't need any more clarity. That night I waited for him at his house with a grocery bag, baked chicken, salad, bread. I arranged everything on the table. He arrived late, smelling of a bar and with damp hair. He gave me a short kiss. What would we do without your grandmother's heart? He joked. Stop talking to me as if I'm your affection employee, I said. And before he could practice another smile, I blurted it out. I need you to say what we are or what we aren't. A complete sentence. Not a cloud. He looked at me the way you look at a customer who asks for more than they paid for. We're 2 people having a good time, he said. I don't want to hurt you. I'm not ready for something serious. I told you that at the beginning. He didn't tell me that. He told me 1 step at a time. He told me, I'll accompany you. He told me, I'm with you. But language has its traps. And I'm with you can mean I'll be here as long as there's nothing else to distract me. Then I'll make your life easy, I replied. No more food in my car, no more borrowed keys, no more of my credit cards, and no more me. He left his fork halfway. Don't exaggerate. I'm not exaggerating. I'm giving you back your, I'll transfer you tomorrow. I'm giving you back your impossible today. I'm giving myself back to me. That's all. He didn't make the show of chasing me. He didn't promise to change. He said, whatever you want, with that flat tone of someone who is already looking past you. I picked up my bag, threw the chicken in the kitchen trash can on impulse so as not to leave him anything, and left. I walked 2 blocks with my cheeks burning, not from the cold, but from anger. That night, for the first time, I didn't think about his perfume, I thought about Daniel. I opened the empty chat and wrote, I'm sorry. I deleted it. I wrote, can we talk? I deleted it. I wrote, I miss you. I left it written and didn't send it. I turned off the phone. I slept with the sound of the refrigerator as my only company. The next morning, I had an email from Human Resources. Subject, reminder of interpersonal relationship policy and brief interview. I felt a pang in the pit of my stomach. I went in. It said that according to the manual, any relationship between employees had to be reported if there was a hierarchical dependence, that it was for conflict prevention and not a sanction. Brief interview in the afternoon. HR, this is routine. We received a climate comment. We are not going to get into your life. We just need to know if there is anything to declare. I breathed. There isn't, I said. There is nothing to declare. The analyst nodded. Took a note. Closed the folder. Thank you. That's it. I left with a more concrete doubt than the abstract ones of the past few months. Someone talked. I don't know if Domi is a colleague, an ex-colleague, a friend of someone. What I know is that the office is a small town. And I had walked around holding hands with the mayor. A rumor doesn't need proof, just spectators. I didn't have time to lick that wound in peace. On Tuesday, an account exploded. A piece I was supposed to approve went out with a typo in the slogan of our most sensitive client. No one dies for AV where AB should be, but clients love their BS as if they were children. Mateo stepped forward, said, I reviewed it too. It's the team's responsibility, but my approval was on the log. I took the blame. I sat through the long meeting. I took the let's leave this as a written warning. I left with dry eyes and a constricted throat. That night I dressed myself in stupidity and called Mateo. Can you back me up with the client? You know we reviewed it together. It's not a good idea to mix things, Ball. The error is on your approval, he said. I can't get involved now. You got involved when there were wines, I replied. Don't be unfair. I hung up. I called Clara. She didn't answer. I called my mom. I didn't want to worry her. I hung up before it rang. I wrote the message I had saved for Daniel. Me, I'm sorry, can we talk for even 5 minutes? I sent it. I stared at the screen as if it were going to blossom. It took half an hour. The reply was a sentence that gave me back my breath and ripped the ground out from under me. Daniel, we can meet on Saturday at noon. El Molino Coffee Shop. I read it 10 times. The rest of the week, I walked with a schedule. Work without my hands shaking, prepare what I'll say, don't cry. On Saturday, I saw him arrive with a punctuality I always liked, before the appointed time with a book under his arm. He sat down, ordered a cappuccino. We talked about the weather for 2 minutes, because even the brave start small. Then I said, I screwed up. Yes, he said without pride. I'm not going to ask you to come back to me today. I just want to talk to you face to face. I got carried away by something that wasn't worth it. I thought it was. I was wrong and I hurt you. I know that. If there's anything I owe you. Oh, he interrupted. You owe me money. My fingers went cold. What? Half of the course I paid for you in November, he said. $250, and the table we bought in January that you kept, I don't want it, but it cost $180. You owe half of half because we'd had it for 4 months, $90. In total, $340. I'm not in a hurry, but I want it to be clear. I was expecting anything but an exact bill. I felt ashamed and at the same time relieved. Daniel is like that, orderly even in his pain. I'll pay you back, I said. This month. I don't accept payments in kind or in promises, he said. A transfer and that's it. I understand. He took a sip. Looked at the rim of the cup. I didn't come here to humiliate you, he added. I came because I loved you very much. I came to get closure. And so you can see I'm doing well. Are you with someone? I asked with that cruel curiosity one should bite back. Yes, he replied without showing off. Recently. I don't owe you details. I swallowed slowly. I nodded. Are you going to propose to her? It came out on its own as if I wanted to complete his life in my head. I don't have to tell you that, he said. I'll just say that I'm fine and I don't want you to write to me anymore, except about the money. Don't drag me into your doubt. I asked you once. This is the last time. I straightened up in my chair. I said, thank you. I said, I'm sorry. I said, you were good to me. He nodded with a clean seriousness. He stood up, paid for his coffee, left a bill for mine and left. I watched him go with that back I know and that no longer belongs to me. I transferred the money on Monday. In the reference I put for table and course. He replied with a receipt confirmation and a thank you. End of conversation. From then on, everything that came was downhill. The collapse happens in layers. First was work. The written warning for the error came with a voluntary improvement plan. I accepted to stop the gossip. 10 days later, Human Resources called me in again. This time the tone changed. There was an anonymous email, it's never really anonymous, that talked about favors and preferences between Mateo and me. They lied with details. They said I received privileged schedules and that he covered up my mistakes. It wasn't accurate, but half of it was already on paper because of the warning. We're not sanctioning, the analyst said. But we're going to move you to a different team to avoid any comments. I moved to Team B, new boss, new clients. Team B wasn't a formal demotion, but everyone knew it was the room where they park those who are on probation. My salary didn't change, but my finances did, because there are no bonuses there. I lost the quarterly bonus I needed to cover my rent comfortably. Second, friendships. The mutual friends with Daniel voted with their feet. Some wrote to me, I hope you're okay, which is the polite way of saying, don't involve me in this. Others decided to be loyal to the one who didn't leave them high and dry in their own life. Clara stayed, but she set boundaries. I'll listen to you, yes. I'm not going to applaud you for writing to Mateo again. Third, Mateo. Of course. The week I was moved to the new team, he stopped showing up at my desk. He literally walked around the floor to avoid passing by my new row. He would pass me in the hallway and say, hello, as if I were the coffee lady. One Wednesday, I saw him in the cafeteria with Domi. I saw them laugh the way I laughed. I saw them clink cups the way I clinked. Domi looked at me for a second, not with hatred, but with that neutrality that hurts more. It meant nothing. When I left, Mateo sent me a message that almost seems like a prefabricated excuse. Mateo, I don't want this to be weird. I wish you the best. Really, I have nothing against you. I learned a lot with you. I learned a lot with you. It sounds like a farewell from a university internship. I didn't reply. I deleted the chat. I deleted his number. I uninstalled the app for a week. I reinstalled it because you don't heal overnight. Fourth, money. When I moved to Team V, I lost the bonus. My rent went up. The car I had lent to Mateo so many times started making a strange noise. I'm not going to say it was his fault. That would be easy. Maybe it was just time. I took it to the shop. The repair cost more than what I had as a cushion. I was left with a maxed-out credit card and a new payment plan. I sold a camera I had bought with Daniel at a fair. The memory weighed on me more than the object. It wasn't a cinematic ruin, it was that dripping ruin of looking at the bank and thinking, if I pay the credit card, I don't buy groceries, of accepting a freelance job on the weekend to fix brochures for someone I wouldn't want to see on social media. Fifth, shame. The least practical but most everyday part. Going to the supermarket and thinking people are looking at you because they know. Going on Instagram and seeing the photo of Daniel at the viewpoint we never went to. Her name is Eva. I found out a week later from another story. She's wearing a wool coat. He's holding a small box. They don't show the inside. It's not necessary. Happiness has a posture. Sometimes even the air around it is different. I didn't cry. I felt a silence in my ear, like when you're on a plane and your ears won't pop. I sat still on the sofa with the grocery bag, still unopened. The ice cream melted once more. The ridiculous attempt to go back. I tried. I say this so my clumsiness is on the record. 2 weeks after the viewpoint, I went to a neighborhood fair where I knew Daniel liked the bookstalls. I didn't plan to run into him, but I knew his patterns. Saturday 10 in the morning, bookseller's area. I walked from stall to stall. I saw him from afar with her. He was holding a book in his hand. You could see the tranquility in his shoulders. I thought about approaching and saying something neutral like, "Hello, what a coincidence." I didn't do it. I took a step and a palm held my elbow from inside. It was Clara. She said, "You're not going to do this." "Just a greeting," I lied. "No," she repeated. "Don't invent reasons. You're not going to open wounds out of curiosity." "I have something to return to him," I replied, as if improvising an absurd alibi. "You already returned what you owed him." "Let it be," she insisted. "Your revenge against yourself won't make him any happier. He's already fine. You're not yet. Respect that at least." I stood there with my heart waiting for an order. Clara let go of my elbow and took me to another stall. I bought a cheap notebook. I opened it that night and wrote 3 words. Do no harm. I didn't write them for Daniel. I wrote them for myself so that the temptation to return to my own crime scene wouldn't make me repeat it. The bill that really hurt. I thought my punishment was going to be simply being left alone, with less money, with fewer people, but there was a bill that hurt me more because it came cleanly, from Daniel, through the proper channels. A month after the coffee, I received a notification from the small claims court. He was filing a simple claim that I owed him 2 months of utilities from the shared house that he had left paid because I left the same week of my departure, and I didn't cover my half. He had receipts, he had proof. I had the memory of the suitcase and the rush to leave for something new. I didn't do it out of bad faith, it was carelessness. But carelessness is also a debt. I sat in the hearing with a public defender, an old heir, and a fan that didn't fix the heat. Daniel was on the other side with a neat folder. He didn't look at me with hatred. He looked at me the way you look at someone to whom you no longer owe anything but formality. The mediator was clear. "Is there a willingness to agree?" "Yes," I said quickly. We agreed on a payment in 2 installments. It wasn't a fortune, but in my state it felt like a stone. We signed. The stamp sounded like a door closing firmly. Outside, I ventured to say, "Thanks for not making it more difficult." "I never wanted to hurt you," he replied. "I don't hurt people for revenge. I just don't owe you care and I owe myself order." It sounds cold. It's the fairest thing anyone said to me in all that time. I paid the installments. That month I ate pasta 3 times with butter and garlic. I learned to use coupons. I turned off the water heater before showering so the bill wouldn't go through the roof. It's not epic, it's practical. It's a daily, but silent, humiliation. The final fall. When you think you've hit rock bottom, you find out there's always another slab below. Human Resources called me on a Tuesday. The client for the B account didn't renew. Team restructuring. It's not personal, but we have to eliminate your position. The personal and the structural look very similar when your name is on the paper. They offered me a severance that barely covered 2 months of rent. I signed. I packed my things in a box brought to me by the same logistics guy who once brought me flowers delivered to reception without a sender, from Mateo, of course, in the times when he gave cheap gestures. Nobody applauds when you go out the door of those who don't make noise. I went out into the street with the box, a lackluster resume, and the temptation to write to Daniel that I was truly sorry now. I didn't do it. I repeated his phrase to myself. Don't drag me into your doubt. Perhaps that was his revenge, not rescuing me, putting a mirror at an honest distance and letting me see what I did. There is no harder slap than a sustained truth. I looked for a job in places that didn't know my stories. I got a worse one with less pay, more hours, no benefits. I accepted it because rent doesn't wait. I sold the car I had lent out so much, with the noise fixed and my patience worn out. I moved to a smaller studio with a window that faces a wall. I learned to listen to podcasts to fill the silence without talking. The news that closes the chapter. 2 months later, Diana sent me a photo without text. Daniel and Eva at a small civil ceremony, white flowers, a simple dress, him with a blue tie he would never have chosen with me because I preferred sober ones. You could see their eyes on the same level. She wasn't rubbing it in, she sent it to me because she knew I would see it anyway. I opened the chat with Daniel. It had his transfer receipt as the last message. I wrote, I wish you the best. I sent it without thinking about whether I should or not. Minutes later, the most correct response in the world arrived. Daniel, thank you. I wish you the same. I ask you not to write to me anymore. Take care. That was all. I blocked him for my belated health. I cried a little, not as nourishment, but as an evacuation. I made myself a tea. I looked at my window with the wall. I went to bed early. An epilogue without comfort. There is no happy ending. There is no moral tied up with a bow. No angels appeared. There was no epiphany that gave me back what I lost. What there was consequence. I chose an easy shine. I left a true warmth. I sold myself for cheap words and was bought with debts. And when I wanted to go back, the door was occupied by someone who did stay for the simple things. Mateo continues his stage life. I come across him sometimes in other people's stories. The last time I saw him, he was toasting in a different bar with another stranger. Sometimes I wonder if he knows he left a fire where he passed. Sometimes I think he does know and that he doesn't care because he always finds another house to light candles in. I'm no longer interested in putting out anything for him. He will live in his fare. I live with my bills. I didn't get better in the end. I didn't get a promotion. I didn't get a bigger apartment. I didn't get my friends from Daniel back. I was left with those who can stand my uncomfortable version, and with one debt paid, another assumed with myself, and a notebook where I write 3 words when nostalgia tempts me. Do no harm. The revenge I got was clean. Daniel left me out of his life without a scandal. He charged me with papers for what I owed. He told the truth without embellishments to whoever asked and moved on. That left me without a heroic narrative where I could paint myself as a victim. I'm not. There's nothing that saves me from myself, and that weighs more than a scream. I close this with the only honest thing I can offer. If you ever find yourself in a hallway similar to mine, don't use the word flowing to cover your eyes. And if you've already crashed, don't make excuses with poetry. Pay what you owe. Be quiet for a long while and take a good look at who you are leaving. Because there are people who, when they leave, don't slam doors, they leave silence. And silence, I assure you, makes more noise than any door.